Good morning, everybody. This is Ken Shaw from SOS Online Backup. We'll get started with the webinar now. Sorry for the delay. We just had a few more people joining. Can I just get a confirmation from people on the line that the audio is coming through clearly and everybody can hear? There's using the questions section or the comments section. If somebody can just confirm that we're coming through loud and clear, and we'll get started. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback, everybody. So today we're actually going to try something a little bit different for these webinars. We do these webinars every week, and we rotate the responsibility for doing them through the executive team. I've been doing a lot of them lately. And in an effort to continue our dialogue with our customers and our partners, rather than do a webinar presentation which is just stand and deliver, what we would like to try and do today is to have a very interactive session for everybody who has been invited. So to that end, we've only actually invited a very small group of people to today's webinar in the hope that through the presentation and then in the Q&A afterwards, we can actually have interactive back and forthing. So right now, all of the participants on the line are actually, you're on mute. But if you type a question as I'm going through the presentation, which will go for about 20 minutes, what we'll do is we'll take you off mute so we can actually have a free-form discussion and Q&A throughout the presentation. And then at about 1:30, we'll move into just a general Q&A section in which you can ask any question you've got at all. So please do make use of that. I think that the greatest value that we as a company get through these webinars is to actually talk and have a dialogue with our customers or our potential partners. And for you as partners, this is a fairly unique opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with various members of our exec team. Today you've got me. I hope that's all right. We've also got Lynn Webber, one of our senior partner specialists, standing by here who can answer your questions. So there'll be a brief presentation where we'll go over the company's history, the backup and DR industry. We'll then look at SOS's technology in particular and then our partnership model. But what I'm really hoping will happen is that very early on in the presentation we'll get some questions, we'll open up the line and then actually be able to have discussions around some of the topics that we're covering and canvassing. So with that, we'll dive into the subject matter. So first and foremost, just a brief overview of who SOS is as a company. We have been around since 2001. I beg your pardon, here we go. So we were founded in 2001, and our focus since the birth of the company has always been the online backup market as a standalone business. We don't focus on anything else as a company, but then specifically the channel. So what we focus on doing is two things. Firstly, having the best technology in the market, and we think we succeed at that pretty well, and we win awards every year and consistently for having the best technology in the online backup space. But then secondly, having an extremely channel-friendly business model. So more than 80% of our revenue as a company comes through our channel partners, and they're ISVs and ISPs and resellers and technology solution providers like yourselves. So presumably today we've got a representative sample of the types of partners we've got. We're a relatively large firm these days. We've got more than 200 employees worldwide, more than 3 million customers on our grid, and nearly 10 million PCs being protected by our technology. So quite a large infrastructure company, and we're growing rapidly. We've been growing at 300% over the last couple of years. We say that more as a commentary on the success our partners are having, because if you remember, all of our revenue comes from the channel. So the fact that we're growing so well is a prime indication of the success partners can have in the online backup business working with SOS. And really the purpose of today's webinar is for me as CEO to invite you into that partnership network. And there are two things I want everybody on the line to get out of today's webinar. First is, well, three things rather. First is a general understanding of online backup, and particularly what SOS does. The second is I really want to encourage everybody to work with our partner consultants to get an ROI model developed for your business. So basically an analysis done by our experts on how you could sell online backup, what sort of revenue you could generate from it, what sort of profit you could generate from it. The third is I want you to all talk to our partner specialists about getting what we call a mock-up, which is basically us showing you preliminarily what your online backup solution could look like, because again, we specialize in producing white-labeled online backup solutions for partners. And then the thing I would like to get out of today's webinar is through the dialogue I want to have today, and because we've got a small group and we've deliberately done that so that we can have that two-way conversation, I really want to understand what is stopping anybody on the line from becoming a partner. So what are the concerns or the questions that you've all got? And my commitment to you all is to either answer them today myself or to get somebody here in our organization to be able to talk to you and answer those questions that you've got. So that's really my goal and desire today, is to figure out what is it that's stopping you from partnering with SOS and getting into this market actively. All right, so our history, I think, skipping through most of this, I think a lot of the people on the line will be familiar with this, but we've been around a long time. We've been very successful in this space, and we're well regarded as being the technology leader. We've been PC Magazine Editor's Choice Online Backup Solution for the last 4 years. And that really is our focus in terms of where we sit in the market. This slide just positions us up against some of the other brands that you might be familiar with in the space. We have always focused on small business solutions, so both direct to SMBs, but also working with channel partners and VARs and MSPs like yourselves to sell through to those small business customers. We've got plenty of consumer customers and we've got some enterprise customers, but our wheelhouse is very much SMB centered. In terms of what, really simplifying what we as a company do, this slide for our marketing team is a good depiction of what we're all about. We take our cloud and our technology as depicted on the left-hand side of this diagram. We then take not just your logo, but your entire approach to marketing and sales, so your whole sales and marketing approach, work with you to then slice and dice up our technology and our different service and product offerings to integrate that with your solutions and the services that you sell, come up with what we believe is a best practice template for your go-to-market approach, and we develop that for you in a highly tailored and customized way. We also then build you a customized software product, so we deliver, just picking on a random audience member, Chris Walker Online Backup, and we deliver you all the technology rebranded for Chris and his business, and then help Chris drive ongoing incremental revenue, which is usually recurring revenue at very high margins. So most of our partners make upwards of 50% margin when they sell online backup powered by us. We try and coach our partners to be earning as much as 80 or 90% margin on what they're selling through. So it's extremely high margin recurring revenue business offering that we work with partners to bring to the market. And then what we then do is everything's white labeled, and everything we do, everything we can do as a company from sales and marketing through to support technology infrastructure, we can then rebrand and white label for you and your business. On the screens a couple of examples of some of the white labeling we've done in the past. We'll see a bit more of that later on in the webinar. But everything that we as a company can do can then be rebranded and white labeled into your business's name, effectively bringing all of our resources and our 200-odd employees, swinging that around behind your brand and your business to make you successful in your particular market. And all of our partners are in different markets, but we've got more than 1,000 partners globally, so at this point we've probably come across every online backup business model that is commonplace in the market. So looking briefly at the technology landscape that we're coming up against. So presumably everybody in the audience today already has customers and is probably selling them backup solutions already. The most common of which being disk or tape. So looking at the particular weaknesses of those solutions, because a big part of the sales approach that you're going to have to adopt as you sell online backup is convincing your clients and your customers to replace their existing backup and DR solutions with your online backup solution. And just looking at that market segmenting, looking into consumer, small business, and enterprise, which is the way we view the world. Generally, there's been very different technology approaches taken in business and consumer, but where the biggest and richest and fastest growing opportunity exists at the moment is in this middle layer, in the SMB layer, where the most predominant technology for the last couple of decades has really been tape-based backup systems, centrally architected tape systems, and we'll talk about some of the weaknesses associated with those in a minute. In the consumer space, there haven't really been standardized backup solutions that have dominated the market. There's been, well, firstly, most consumers don't in fact engage in regular backups, and then when they do, there's no real standard that's emerged, anything from USB thumb drives through to external hard disk drives. Online backup is fast emerging as the de facto standard in the consumer space. Small business space, though, has really been dominated by tape and disk, predominantly tape, actually, and then if it's an off-site backup solution, which it would often not be, in fact, that solution's usually been architected around a three-part approach of hardware, software, and labor. Hardware is usually the tape or disk array we're talking about. Software is then something like Backup Exec from Veritas or Legato, Dance Retrospect. And then the labor component, which is often not well costed by businesses, and it's often a component of a solution that your clients don't well understand, but there's always an enormous labor cost associated with centrally architected backup solutions like tape. and that's the labor associated with not just installing and configuring and deploying that solution at the front end, but also then the cost to run that solution. So the cost to rotate tapes, verify recoverability of media, take media off-site, actually has a very significant burden in terms of internal IT staff cost or potentially external cost. So your small business customers may do a lot of that work themselves. They may rely upon you as their third-party technology provider to do that work. Either way, somebody's paying that bill. Whereas when we move then into the online backup space, so if you imagine a world where all of your clients are now using your online backup solution branded to your company, we're still doing all of those. We're still have all of those elements in the solution, the software, the hardware, the services, and the support, but it's all wrapped up into one very simple software as a service solution that's delivered over the internet, pure software, very low cost to install, nearly next to zero cost to actually run and manage and maintain. So the total cost of ownership, and we'll see an example of this in a few slides' time, but the total cost of ownership for an online backup solution is dramatically lower than the TCO associated with a tape backup solution or a more traditional disk-based solution, what we refer to as centrally architected backup solutions. And this is borne out in the data that's coming from the industry. What we're seeing in the industry is just a complete collapse of sales of hardware associated with tape and disk-based backup. So over the last 2 years, actually, tape backup sales have fallen 25% annually, so they've shrunk from 2.3 billion or thereabouts down to 1.5 billion in just a 2-year period. And that trend is predicted to continue. So tape is very rapidly starting to disappear from all new backup and DR installations. There's still a lot of legacy hardware and equipment out there that's being maintained, and that's being migrated across into the cloud. In terms of just looking at the prospective market and forward-looking, there was a recent survey done in which up to 60% excuse me, of CIOs who are actually respondents in the survey have indicated that they're planning on moving their backup regimes into the cloud 24 to 48 months. So not only have you got this very steep fall-off in the use and acquisition of tape-based and disk-based backup technologies, but you've also then got really good data out there in the market that says that more than half of small businesses and enterprises are now evaluating moving all their backup into the cloud. That's going to progress over the next few years. So just looking at a rough example to give you a sense of the costs associated with tape versus cloud backup, and this won't be equally applicable to everybody's clients, but this example comes from a real customer scenario of a small business with about 10 customers, 10 employees, one server, and then so workstation data and server data, backing up about 100 gigabytes. From a tape backup solution, their total cost in year one